right, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. Help me welcome to the stage 50th anniversary James Bond Q&A. We got George, Maud, Lana, and Richard. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together! Woo!
Got called into work. Who?
It's there.
One part.
That's enough questions. Thank you. Coming fast.
So,
Yeah.
Welcome, 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 guys.
thank you very much. Where are you? There you are.
Very short mic string here, so I can only go, hey, right around the corner.
I wouldn't brag about it if I were you.
It's not the size of the mic string.
Yes, it is. Oh my God.
Well, the women say something.
Well, isn't this what you expected? Two women and him. Par for the course.
Never enough.
All right, guys, we can get started. I guess go through, introduce yourselves, let everybody know what Bonds films you were in.
All right. Shall I start? Sure. My name is Maud Adams. I played in Octopussy, and I also played 10 years prior to that. I was in The Man with the Golden Gun, so I've been a Bond girl twice. They liked her a lot. Oh, I'm Lana Wood, and I played Plenty O'Toole in Diamonds Are Forever. Yeah. Yay!
My name is Richard Keel, and I was in The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonlight.
My name's Sean Connery. My name's Bond, James Bond. Any questions?
Come on, folks.
We ain't that pretty to look at anymore.
Leave it to rude questions. Well, he might be, but... All right.
All right, where's the first question at? First question. There we go.
All right, nobody cares. Okay, we'll just say nothing.
I can do that.
I can do that.
I'm real good at
How has the franchise changed?
That's funny. That's funny.
Over the years? Well, I can tell you that we've gone through a few generations of producers. I mean, I was in Sweden a couple of days ago, actually, for the opening of Skyfall. And I now met the third generation of Broccolis in the business producing, which is pretty amazing. Barbara Broccoli, who is now the main producer with Michael Wilson, was just a little girl when I first met her. And when I made my first The Man with the Golden Gun, Cubby Broccoli, her father was producing. They were still a producing team like Saltzman and Broccoli at that time, and later on it became just the Broccoli family. And then Michael brought in, and then Cubby Broccoli brought in his stepson, Michael Wilson, into the picture, and then Barbara also joined. And now we have two of the sons, I believe, of Michael Wilson. I think you can tell more about that, who are now also part of the production team. That's a big change. I made lots of other changes, but there are a lot of things still the same.
George.
I've got nothing to say. Any questions?
George, yes, they did throw George. It was George they threw out of the window into the swimming pool. He did not use a stunt.
I know what you're talking about. Neither do they. Meanwhile, yeah, no questions?
Nothing? Nobody cares?
Yeah, George, you're Australian, so was it kind of a
hard road to get into Bond, who's English, and the accent?
Yeah, the accent was difficult. Yeah, they talk funny in England. And the walk. They changed my walk as well. They wanted me to walk like Prince Philip, and I looked like I guess I walked like a swaggering Australian coming out of a pub. And they said, you gotta walk like Prince Philip and talk like Sean Connery. And so, yeah, you'll do anything to get James Bond when you're in your 20s. It's kind of a groovy thing to do. But I wasn't an actor to begin with, so I had to beat off a few hundred guys to get the role. But when I got it, I felt pretty big-headed.
As well you should.
Well, lots of people compare the Bonds, and you've only done one, but a lot of people think that you were the best one.
Very good of you to know that.
Everybody vote for George. Woo! He's the best one.
Yeah. What else can I say?
Of course, I have my own personal favorite, but that's a different story. I didn't say who, though.
I can guess, me.
Yep, that's it.
And Maud and I, strangely enough, worked together on a commercial in Italy before.
Way before this.
Way before James Bond.
Yeah.
And it's too bad. She was tough then as she is
She
now.
still is.
We had a great time, and I think I was playing a James Bond character.
You actually were, and I was actually, I did these television commercials for a hair product, L'Oreal hair product in Italy for many, many years, and I played a twin, and it was really a long series, something called Carousels in Italy, which is 15-minute segments of commercials, and they all have storylines. And I played myself twice because I was a twin. And we always had some interesting men that I got to pick from every time I was there. And luckily enough, I got George one time.
I remember.
I do too.
I don't remember that at all.
It's a good thing.
It was a good thing, yeah. Anyway. Second question?
In regards to the name of your character.
Jaws?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, when I met Cubby Broccoli, they weren't sure whether or not the teeth were going to be like tools, like pliers, made out of steel, or whether they'd be like a shark. He actually had the makeup special guy that did Planet of the Apes do his version, and Cubby Broccoli, the producer, didn't like what he did. He had a Dell technician out on Pinewood do the set they finally used. So Jaws was, I don't think the name in the novel, the Fleming novel, is a funny Polish name or something. But Jaws seemed to fit the character, and since there were teeth, probably more like a shark.
Ladies?
Yes.
You want to go first?
Do what?
But names.
Names. I got nothing. I got nothing. I signed the name of Plenty O'Toole more than I signed Lana Wood, however.
Oh, yeah.
It's always something.
Well,
Yeah,
in
no.
that case, I guess I got one of the names.
Yeah.
I didn't get one of those names in The Man with the Golden Gun. My name was Andrea Anders. And but then, of course, they made up for it when I did Octopussy. And let me tell
I
you,
would say.
when I first got that name, when I heard what I was going to play, I was a little concerned. I said, they can't be serious, you know? But it's amazing how things grow on you. Now I don't even react, you know? Octopussy, what?
So has that ever happened where you're, say, at shopping, you're at the grocery store, Octopussy!
Well, no, it hasn't happened yet. But
How many guys come up to you trying to be suave, talking to you like
Well, that is really part of, I think, the whole James Bond mystique. I think men like to see themselves as James Bond, and I think women would like to have, once in their life, like to be attracted to a guy like that, at least now and then. And maybe not marry them exactly.
Yeah.
Of course, he wouldn't marry you anyway, so we know that by now. Anyway. But I can tell you that, well, I've been to a few of these premieres and special events over the years as having been part of this series, and I know that all these events, there's nothing the guys like better than dressing up like James Bond in a tux and strut around. Yeah. And it's nice. I mean, they look good. Yeah.
So how is becoming Bond girls, this is for the ladies, how is becoming Bond girls affected your life in any way? Negatively or positively?
Well, for me, actually, it was just another role. I finished shooting that and went off to do something else, and didn't give it a second thought. Oddly enough, and I was sent on a world tour to promote Diamonds, and I had lovely receptions everywhere, and people were very anxious to come and say hello and do all that. But I don't think that it affected me at all at that time. It affects me now.
Yeah.
It's sort of snowballed. It was not as big a snowball back then, but it's kept rolling forward, and now it's become a very big thing. But it did not affect me at the time in the least. Was that interesting?
Between the two Bond films I did 5 films. I was busier than any time in my acting career, so I kind of became internationally known. People all around the world knew my name, and I found myself doing films in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Yugoslavia, Italy, and all of them because of the Bond character. I did a film with Barbara Bach and Corinne Clary. I think we all were in that film because of the Bond film. And I did another film with Barbara Bach, Force 10 from Navro. The other one was Le Humanoid. Got to go to Rome and to Israel. And so my family benefited greatly from doing the 2 Bond films.
Well, I guess you're going to get the last word, but I totally agree with you. I think it's been really important for my career as well, because I also came out of, as you heard, a modeling background, and Bond has done a lot. And like you, I've made a lot of other films, but in television work as well, and also worked on stage. But in the end, this is what people remember you for. But honestly, when I made the first movie, I never expected this to be around for 50 years. Now, unless you have been not reading the papers or watching the news at all, you know it's a 50th year anniversary of Bond, which is the longest running series ever. And you have not seen the new Skyfall yet. It's coming out in a couple of weeks, but I just saw it 3 nights ago. And it is absolutely amazing. It's not going to disappoint. As a matter of fact, I think it's going to make maybe this series last for another 50 years. I won't be around then, but I'll still be a Bond girl, I guess.
Did you find yourself doing a lot of commercials? I know I did a drill bit commercial in Lyon, France.
Yeah.
And shredded wheat commercial in England. And Glico milk commercial in Japan, Sharp Electronics. I probably did a dozen commercials. Mug root beer. I did one for Teledyne water pick.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
How fitting.
Did one for Dow Chemical for a tile cleaning commercial where I bust through the bathroom wall and start cleaning the tile. So the Bond film really impacted my career, the 2 films I did.
Yeah. Well, I did a lot of commercials before when I was working as a model. As a matter of fact, one of my commercials was for lipstick, and that's how I ended up in the film business, because Leslie Caron, you were all too young to remember her, but she was married to Michael Laughlin, a producer at the time, and he was doing a movie, and they were looking for an actress to play the part opposite Beau Bridges. And she made him, I guess she followed fashion magazines, and she had seen this commercial, and she made him look at the commercial, and that's how they called me in and made me do a test, and I got the part, my first, can you believe it or not, only happens in America, a leading role in my first movie. And I hadn't done any acting whatsoever before that, which showed in a way, I can tell. Go ahead, it's your turn. You're too quiet. He is never quiet, ever. I don't know.
I have a question. Did y'all, and the whole thing seemed like fun, but do you have a favorite scene or anything that you did that just stands out as being more memorable than any of your,
No,
the whole entire thing would be cool, but
a favorite saying, I'm not quite...
No, scene.
Oh, scene. Oh.
No.
No, I don't think so.
Well, the whole thing would be fun, but I didn't know if you just loved this one scene you did, and you were in Morocco or wherever, and, it just stands out. Or it's just the whole thing's cool, and it was all fun.
Well, maybe once... I can't think of one right now. Maybe you guys have... Oh, the one, here we go. Now he's finally showing his true colors. The work I did with him in Italy obviously was the most important thing in my career.
Okay, well, I got it. My favorite scene was I was doing the Bond film. We're just about finished in Portugal. That's where they did the first and last scene. And I ran into this tennis player because I invited this whole troop of girls that kick their heels up, the dancing girls on the stage. I invited them up to my room, up to my hotel room after the show, and I thought they'd never show up. And next thing I got a knock on the door at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I opened the door, and right down the hallway was all these dancing girls. I went, holy shit. And so, what am I going to do? I'm James Bond, I ain't that good. So I rang up this other Australian that was in the hotel, Lou Hood. And I said, hey, Lou, he's a tennis player.
Famous.
We hadn't met. And I said, Lou, I'm an Australian. I'm up on the top floor. And I've got 20 or 30 girls outside. You come up, this is like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. He says, F off, and hung up, you see. So I rang up and I said, no, Lou, I'm serious. He thought I was joking with him. So he said, if you're joking, I'm going to throw you off the roof. So he came up. And this Lou and I with these 20 or 30 girls, I can't remember how many, they're all over the place in weird high boots, and they were showgirls, And I left Lou because I had to go to work at 7 o'clock, and about 6 o'clock I said, I got to go and get a nap, And next morning I saw Lou with these big line of beer glasses out in front of him, girls laying around everywhere sleeping. And that was just a, usual night. And then Lou and I became buddies, and we went to this night, the big top of the hill nightclub in Portugal, in Lisbon. And it was in a high-rise building, and you had to get past the doorman. And I went in with Lou, and he's like the world's best tennis player at the time, and I'm James Bond. I said to the guy, can we go up to the club? He said, no, you're not members. I said, I'm James Bond, and this is Lou Hood. He said, get out of here, you're not. I couldn't convince him because the film hadn't come out, right? So Lou and I went back out to our big limo and drove off somewhere else. I thought, so much for James Bond. And
that changed a bit.
Another time in a restaurant, I was walking in, and you got to remember, it was 1968. It was hippie time. Everyone had bell bottoms, flower shirts, make love, not war, and all this other thing. And I walked into a very posh restaurant where everyone was down out in their hippie gear. As I was walking through, some guy yelled out, hey, waiter! I had short hair and a suit on. So those kind of weird things that happened. Not to mention some guy came over in another posh restaurant, the White Elephant, I think it was called in London. And he poured a glass of wine in my lap. And I went, and he said, my girlfriend said I wouldn't be game. I think, that's what you get for being James Bond. He got thrown out, but I had wet pants. And so, but things like that, another guy dropped a piece of spaghetti on my head. Again, the girlfriend wasn't gay, said I wasn't gay. I accidentally dropped his food in his lap as I was leaving. It was a little bit of a punch-up outside, which I enjoyed. But it was, that's one of the worst things about being James Bond, is things like that. But the other ones, you get, when your movie comes out, things change. All of a sudden, people recognize you. And the press get hold of you, and then you go and get your dry cleaning, you can't get out of the store because everyone's blocking the door, saying that's the new James Bond in there. So they let you out the back door into the alley. So it's, yeah, when you're hot, you're hot. And then when you're cold, you get older, and some guy will come past and say, you know, you remind me of someone. I don't know who, but you remind me of someone.
Well, I had somebody doing that to me too. They brought over their 2 kids. Somebody was really excited about meeting me and says, oh my God, you gotta shush the children up to me. And they said, she used to be Maud Adams. I said, I still am, you know. You know.
Oh, dear.
Good, we got a question over there.
I'm sorry, TV show what? Night Gallery, yes. Oh, I recall everything about that. It was a very interesting show to shoot. I played a android, and it was with Cloris Leachman and Broderick Crawford. And we had a lot of trouble with the makeup and the latex they wanted to put on my face. And they changed their mind about that. And we went to just a white makeup and worked the best we could with that. So everybody was thrilled when everybody was ready and on the set and we could actually film. And every time we would start the scene, Cloris would go someplace else on the set. And to the point where the director finally cut it and motioned her over and he said, you've got to tell me where you're going. And she said, I never know because I just go with what I'm feeling at the time and where the line, how the line hits me and or how someone else is saying something, so I never know. And he said, okay, but I would really like to put the camera someplace. So that was that was Night Gallery, yeah. Oh boy. But she's settled down. She's a wonderful actress. She's a wonderful actress.
She tell her where to stick the camera?
Yeah, I know, that's the first thing that entered my mind as well. I like to put the camera someplace. Ooh. Don't do that. Don't go there. But yeah, Night Gallery was awesome.
All of y'all are awesome.
Thank you.
It's an awesome position to get to see you talk. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is one of my absolute favorites. It was awesome. And I think it deserves a lot more attention than what it gets. I really do. It was absolutely amazing for an awesome James Bond. And I have to ask you though, was there any decisions about return?
Yes, it was. But it wasn't my decision, actually. It was my manager's. He said that it's hippie time. This is Sean Connery's gig. Get out now before you get typecast as James Bond, which I've been all my life.
They found his body floating in the river shortly thereafter.
So, yeah, it was. And it was tough getting work after because everyone thought I was under contract to Bond people. So I went sailing for 15 months and raised a family. And so my life's been pretty good, even though I wished I'd done another one. Well, it makes sense now. Because, you know, Easy Rider was the #1 movie when I did My Majesty's Secret Service, and everyone was walking around, you know, smoking dope and going the opposite way to what the conservative James Bond character was. So it wasn't easy to be, you know, guys who killed people weren't very popular.
And I've got a question for all 4 of you. All right, so...
Lady in the back.
Oh, lady in the back. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Can you repeat the question for us?
Yeah.
Yes.
You can read that.
Part of the reason you got the role for Bond was your ability to fight. Here she comes.
Here she comes.
it wasn't my acting.
I don't believe that.
No,
No, you were great in the role, so.
to put in perspective, when I went for the part, I lied. I told them I was an actor and I'd acted in every country that I thought they couldn't check me. And so then the director, I had to meet the director the next day. And I leveled with him. I said, look, Peter, I've never acted before in my life. He said, you've never acted before? And he got really mad because he had to come back from Switzerland to meet me. And so, and then he started laughing. He said, you're an actor. I said, what do you mean? He said, you fooled two of the most ruthless men I've met in my life. He said, they just brought me back from Switzerland to meet you. He said, stick to your story, I'll make you the next James Bond. And I thought, oh, this is cool. So then we went over to meet the producers and they said, get him out of here, he's a clothespin, meaning a model. And they researched me overnight and found out that I did commercials. This would be the laughing stock of the industry. He's a male model. You can't use a male model as James Bond. And
Sean was.
well, I didn't know that. Why didn't you tell me, Valley? So meanwhile, they wanted to test me, and Peter wanted to test me, and they wouldn't. And he said, we'd be the laughing stock of the industry. Not testing him at the studio. So they tested me at Solston's place. And this went on for 4 months. And meanwhile, they were testing 300 other guys. The biggest film test in history. And eventually, Peter brought me into the studio for the fight scene. But they didn't stunt train me. They said, you've got to miss these guys. But I tried to miss them. But the last one I hit, and he was a Russian wrestler. And he went out cold. And I was thinking, geez, when he wakes up, he's going to kill me. And Saltzman came out, this ruthless man, steps right over the wrestler, drags me over against the wall and says, get lost, we're going with you. I said, it's about time. He said, what? I said, thank you very much. That's the honest God truth. And I said, what do you mean get lost? He said, if you mention one thing about you being the new Bond, the deal's out. He said, we got publicity, we got Life magazine cover, this, that, and the other. And so I said, where am I going to go? And he said, anywhere you want. This is my travel agent. Get a ticket anywhere. And so I had to hide out for a couple of weeks. And I called up my old girlfriend from Australia, the girl I went to England for. And I said, I'm down in the south of France. You want to come down? And her father took the phone away from her, who hated me, and said, what are you going to do with my daughter down in the south of France? And I said, nothing I haven't done before, Jack. And she took the phone back, don't talk to my father like that. I go, I got to eat him. He sent her to England to get away from me. And that's why I went to England in the first place. So it's all about women, you know, my whole life. Guys were fine to drink, but once they got drunk, I couldn't understand what they were talking about. So
you didn't have any normal combat training?
No, Friday night fights in Australia was that. That was it. There weren't enough girls. So you best mate would say, hey, you and me outside, you know, just to get your rocks off. And so I ended up with a nose as flat as a pancake. But it was, I've been lucky in fights. You know, it's whoever gets the first hit in usually, if they hit them right. And it's, there's a lot of guys out there now that, at my age, I'll talk my way out of it.
You all look incredible.
Thank you.
Got a question in the back?
Oh, Nick Nack, yeah. Oh, Hervé he was, unfortunately. He was a sweet little guy. I mean, he liked to live the life, I have to say. I guess he was aware that his life might be not that long. So when we were in Thailand, I mean, I remember coming home, when we were getting on a location in the morning, he'd be coming into the hotel, usually with two beautiful women on his side. So he stayed out late, he smoked cigars, he drank too much for his little body, and in the end, I think he paid for it. And he was rather, you know, he was feisty little guy too, but he was very sweet underneath, and he was an artist. He painted, and he was painting quite a bit in his spare time, also on location. And he used to actually come and put little drawings under my door in the hotel. I liked him a lot, but I also was aware that he was a very complicated person.
Did you open the door?
You what?
Did you open the door?
See what I mean? Yeah. What do you think?
For Miss Adams and for Mr. Keel, I guess for you, Miss Adams, I've seen a screen test where you did one with James Brolin.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know how close he was to becoming Bond, and if he would have been successful at that time as opposed to Roger Moore.
Yeah.
And for Mr. Keel, the character of Jaws, he could have been a very dark character, but how much, the reason that the fans love him so much is the kind of guy that got himself up and dusted himself off. How much say-so did you have in the creation of the character?
Do you want to start?
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, from the very beginning, I was doing a movie called The Silver Streak, playing a regular killer with a gun, and that talked, and I got called by my agent about having lunch with Cubby Broccoli. I didn't know who that was. Anyway, I found out he was the Bond producer. I was pretty excited. And he told me about the role, and it sounded like a monster part. You know, he said a guy with teeth like pliers, or like a shark. He kills people with his teeth. I was, oh my God! You know, I've been fighting to become an actor. I'm playing a part with Gene Wilder, where I'm a killer on the train. And it kind of put me off the whole thing. But I love James Bond movies, and by the way, George, your movie was one of my favorites on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
I always knew you had good taste.
Yeah, and anyway, one of the first things that Cubby Broccoli said to me was that he had interviewed David Prowse already. Dave was a nice guy. He was a guy that was inside the Darth Vader suit, but you couldn't see him, you know, and he had the voice done by James Earl Jones, you know, so I wasn't really too excited about playing this character. But James Bond films I really loved them. So I took a chance, and I said to Cubby Broccoli, I think whoever plays this part should be an actor, because a guy that kills people with his teeth could become over the top very quickly. And I said, if I were to play the role, I'd want to give the character some human qualities to make him offset killing with his teeth. And he said, like what? I said, you know, perseverance, frustration, vulnerability. And he said, I like that. And because he took the films very seriously. And so he said, what are you doing for dinner tonight? And he invited me to his house to meet his wife and his children and the writer. And so from the very beginning, he was very open for ideas to come from me to play the character in a way that would be more interesting than just a stone-faced killer. And then it turned out the director really had a great sense of humor, and he liked what I was doing. When I did brush my clothes off and straighten my tie and continue on, he said, Richard, he said, that's going to be your trademark. I want you to do that throughout the whole thing. And so I did. And so then when I went through the roof of the villa with the Italian couple, and the car crashes through the roof, and I come through the door and I'm straightening my tie, brushing my clothes off. And the audience liked it. And it turned out to be the character to be more entertaining and more fun. And so I did have quite a bit to do with the creation of the more interesting killer. Like when I dropped a block on my foot in the movie at the pyramids. When I did that during rehearsal, I grabbed my foot and I was jumping up and down like I dropped a 5,000-pound block on my foot. It weighed about 2 pounds, made out of styrofoam. And the crew was saying, "Get an ambulance, get a doctor, quick, get a nurse." And they really believed it, that I smashed my foot. And the director was like rolling on the ground laughing because he knew that it weighed nothing. He said, "Let's do one like that." So we, just little ideas that you'd have, and they went along with it. And I would say that Roger Moore had as much to do with the success of Jaws as what I did, because he would play along with that. Like when the magnet sucked me up over the shark tank, he said, "How does that grab you?" And things like that.
May I interject something here? Why don't you tell the story about your pairing with Blanche? Because that's a lovely story
well, that
too.
was, again, they wanted to have a 7'7" woman play my girlfriend. And I don't have anything against tall women, but 7'7", she looked like she needed power steering. My wife is 5'1", and we have 4 children, so it does work. And when I first read the script, Jaws is going to have a love interest, a girlfriend, 6 feet tall. That was fine. I would have been happy with a 6 foot tall woman, although I kind of prefer short women, little gals. But when the 7'7" woman idea popped up, they were all excited. And I said, "Guys, that just isn't going to work for me. I'm 7'7". The whole reason that Jaws turns into a good guy and goes against Drax is because he doesn't fit into this perfect society because of his size. And the girlfriend, because she wears glasses, doesn't fit in. And so in order to save her, he turns into a good guy and goes on the side of Bond. A 7'7" woman would not need any help from Jaws. And the motivation's not there, it doesn't work. Anyway, they were mad at me. They were really ticked off. They showed me the scenes of the skydiving, jumping out of the airplane with the stuntman, doing all that. They said, "Look, we're going to make you a star." And I said, "Yeah, but it doesn't mean I have to marry somebody's ugly daughter. I'm sorry." And so they said, "Well, what did you have in mind? A Bond girl?" And I said, "Well, that would be nice. I'd like to have a Bond girl. But if I can't have a Bond girl, how about a little short gal?" And they said, "How short?" And I said, "Well, at least 5 feet, I think." 5 feet tall? You think the audience would believe that? And I said, "Well, my wife's 5'1". We have 2 children, 1 on the way. They gotta believe it. And so they were miffed at me, they were ticked off, but the director brought in an actress friend of his who was about 5'2" or 3", and she was scared to death of me, and she was shaking. And I thought, "Oh my God, now this isn't going to work either." And so I said to Louis Gilbert, the director, I said, "She's shaking, Louis. She's afraid of me." And he said, "She'll be fine. She's a good actress." Anyway, I went to the cameraman, Louis's friend, Alec Mills, and I said, "Alec, say something to Louis. That woman is shaking." He said, "Yeah, I saw that." And I said, "She's scared to death of me. It's not going to, there's no chemistry there." And so he did, thank God. And a couple of days later, Louis Gilbert, the director, said, "Richard, I want you to take your wife and I want you to go see a movie. It's playing here in Paris. We're filming in Paris, called Le Carapane. It's a French comedy. You won't understand a word, but it's very funny. There's a gal in there, you'll see her right away, you'll know what I'm talking about. I think she'd be perfect to play your girlfriend, Dolly." So we went to see the movie, and there's this little gal who's a farmer's wife, and she's having all these affairs while her farmer husband goes into town. And she was nude in the scene and quite well built. And I thought, wow, she's just really just right here. And anyway, she thought she was going to be a Bond girl, and they brought her to the studio, and they started putting glasses on her and putting her hair into pigtails, and she said, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" She's a little French actress, Blanche Rabelais, and but anyway, to make a long story short, when Cubby Broccoli and the others saw the Russians with this little gal, the chemistry was there, and when Jaws smiles and the sun shined on his teeth, and she smiled back, and they played the Romeo and Juliet music and the whole thing, you know, and it worked. And Cubby Broccoli was sitting with a journalist, and he said to the journalist as we're all walking out of the screening room, watching the dailies, not enough for me to hear. He said to the journalist, you know, Richard and I had a falling out about that scene you just saw, but I must say that Richard was absolutely right. And I thought that was pretty big for him to say that so I could hear him. And so I did. I had a little bit to do with some of the characterization of Jaws.
Yeah, you did quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
You
just
created your own
happened.
character, really you did.
Well, so I'll tell the story about James Brolin then. Okay, so when I was asked to come and fly to London to do a screen test for Octopussy, and I was asked by the Broccoli family, and I assumed that they wanted me there just because we were on friendly terms, and I was just going to do them a favor. Because they were testing James Brolin, who would have been the first American James Bond had he gotten the role. And we did the usual test as they usually do. I mean, From Russia with Love, it's a scene that they all love to test the girls on. Anyway, I noticed, though, when we were doing the screen test, they took particular care in changing my character, and I started thinking then, well, maybe they actually are serious about me. But sorry about this. I forgot to turn my phone. I was going to stop soon. James Brolin did a really good test, and I think he would have been a really good Bond, but I think it would have been hard for them to get over the fact that he was an American. It did not have a good British accent. And at the time, of course, his contract was up, and they weren't renegotiating with him. And I think having a test with James Brolin also made it a little bit more urgent for maybe Roger to sign a new contract, which is what happened.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we got. But if you have any more questions for these guys, please go visit them over at their table. Once again, big round of applause.